What's up, everyone? It's your boy Shotgun Gabe. I'm doing a two-part series, and this is about financial stock market crash. We're going to go over short, brief description of how the economy works, what are some main key things about it, and how you can protect yourself in the long run. Stay tuned. Let's get into it. Okay, so shout out to everyone wearing red ribbons this month. Prayers and warm thoughts are with you. Everyone trying to make their life better, financially or any other way. Now, I want to get into how I'm going to protect myself against the stock market or possibly an economic crash. Now, I want to get into it, and this is going to be part one of a two-video series because there's a lot of information. I don't like making big old long drawn out videos. I want it short, sweet, and simple, and I want to do it and explain it in a way everybody can understand. When I study and research this stuff, a lot of times they make things complicated, and for a reason, because the wealthy people running things do not want you to understand what's going on, is how I feel. So, first things first, let's talk about 1913. So in 1913, they did something called the Federal Reserve Act. And what that did was they unconstitutionally make money. And why do I say unconstitutional? Because the Constitution says that gold and silver they specify what it should be. And they do this because our government foreseen problems like they had in Europe, where these people running things were printing money out of control. So what they did was they backed it by gold. In 1913, the Federal Reserve Act, which was passed while a lot of people were gone on vacation, you could research it, the 1913 Federal Reserve Act, they said, we are going to print money and lend it to the government, and you're going to pay us back with interest. And here's where the problem starts for us, and what benefits people running things a whole lot. Now, if I say, I'm the Federal Reserve, U.S. government, I just made $100. Here's $100. You got to pay it back with $6 interest, because we're going to go on 6%. And the U.S. government says, okay. And they use this money and they pay their people, and it gets into the economy, and now we got $100 circulating in the economy. Well, the U.S. government says, okay, we got to pay them back $106. Well, there's not $106 because they printed and borrowed $100. So they say, hey, we owe you guys $106 because of the interest. So make another $100. And so the Federal Reserve makes another $100, and they lend it to the U.S. government, who gives it to everybody. And then they say, okay, so now we got $200 in existence. We need to give $106 back. They give $106 back. Now they have $94 in the economy. And they owe $106 for that second $100 they borrowed. So then they borrow another $100. Now there's $194, but they owe $106 on that. So then they say, well, this time let us borrow $200 and we'll pay you back $212. And so they put it into the economy, and each time they continue to borrow money, owing interest on money that is not yet made. How can you pay $106 back if you borrow $100 and there's only $100 in the economy? You can't. So that's where this starts. We continually borrow money to pay back the debt, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, profiting the people who run the Federal Reserve and get the dividend. You can go and look at the Federal Reserve and see how the people that are involved in it get paid. I believe it's at 3%, it might be a 6%. Look into this. It's not federally owned. And there was 2 presidents who went against this and wanted to make money. And I'll give you a hint, one of them made money called greenbacks, right? And then the banks made a big old thing about this. But the 2 people who ever went against the Federal Reserve were assassinated. The 2 that I know about. The 2 presidents that went against the Federal Reserve were assassinated. So, just something for thought. Now, on August 15th, 1971, I don't know how you feel about Richard Nixon, but I believe he was a traitor in it. Sorry if you like Richard Nixon, but just look at it. It was $35 an ounce for gold until then, and when you went into the bank, you had a piece of paper, and I'm going to show you guys a copy of it, and it said $5, $10, however many dollars, and it said this is a receipt for your depositing gold. So you deposited your gold and they gave you a receipt which was green. It had a little thing on the side of it, red and gold. This is a receipt for gold, and it had presidents on it, it had pictures of people on the front, and it looked exactly like $1, but it said something very different, and this is very important. It said that this is a receipt for your gold, and not this is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Two different, and we're going to look at a photo of that, so let's check it out. So if we look at a gold certificate, we can see that they used to be stamped certifying that this was a receipt for gold given to the bank as a deposit. The bank held your money and would give you this receipt, and you could use it back and forth with other people, which was constitutional. If you look at notes that we have today, they do not say that. They say this is legal tender for debts, public and private. Our money was no longer backed by gold, giving the government the ability to print money into oblivion whenever they see necessary. Now, the price of gold was around $35 an ounce until 1971. It has increased dramatically, alright? So, right now, an ounce of gold is $1,734. So, there's multiple factors making your money less and less valuable every day. And the government had to have a way to fight this. They want to be able to print money when they see necessary, but they also want to defend against the dollar being worthless, because once again, they're profiting off of it, right? I don't think it's for mine and your benefit. It's so they can continue to profit off of it. So, in 1979, the Saudi Arabia-U.S. Joint Commission made oil contracts, and they used petrodollars. And in other words, to explain this, they said, hey, let's make it so nobody else can buy oil without using the US dollar as a standard, because our value, I don't know if they told them that their money is going to lose value, but I mean, people in these arenas are not stupid. The Saudi Arabians are not stupid. So, Saudi Arabians. So, they agreed to it. And today, if you want to have an oil contract, you have to use the US dollar standard, or a petrodollar. So these things are making money less and less valuable and profiting those on top. Now, I used to work for a bank. I did desktop support, and I looked into banks before this, but while I was working for them, I also looked into it even more. I wasn't a banker. Like I said, I was in tech. I did their computers, stuff like that, their network switches, firewalls. But they do a thing called fractional reserve lending. And what they do is, if they have $10, they can lend up to $100 out. And it's different depending on what they're doing, but they can have a certain amount of money and then several times that amount, as long as they have a small percentage in there. So like if they have 6% or 10%, they can loan how much more out. So for every $6 they have, they can lend $100. For every $10 they have, they can lend $100 out, and it's called fractional reserve lending. If you want the specific rates, because they're different for different things, look into it. Look at fractional reserve lending. That's what the banks do. So these are multiple things that attack your money or make it lose value. And when they print more, they go into inflation. And if you look at countries, there's a thing called hyperinflation, and it makes their money worthless. They got to a point where there were some countries that were printing so much money that they no longer had paper to print on, so they had to use wood. And I'm not playing, look into it. So there's several ways we can protect ourselves against this. What I do myself is I buy silver, so I have silver around. You store your money into something that is going to become or hold or become more valuable. You can do it in stocks, but if the stock market crashes, you might be in trouble. A lot of people like holding their value in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is very good, but if Bitcoin happens to crash with the market, you're going to be in trouble. I believe rental properties are really good because there's always more people and there's always a demand for more property, which is going to continue to drive it up and which brings in rent. But if everybody financially is doing bad, that can hurt you too. So you got to look at good tenants that have good business models or have a job that they won't lose if the economy crashes, correct? So think about this stuff, and I'm going to go into video 2, and I'm going to tell us how we can store our money and where the safest place to be. Now, if the market ever crashes, I have money put away so I can buy in, because if the market crashes, it's going to be a great opportunity for me. I don't see it scary. I don't see it as like, oh my God, I probably will not sell any of my stocks. And when it gets to around its bottom and starts climbing back up, I am going to invest a lot more money. Like, if you look at the charts, look at earlier last year when this epidemic came out, and look at where the market went. Great time to invest. That's when my NEO exploded, and I had a couple of other accounts that just popped up, and I was able to get things at a really cheap price. So a stock market crash does not have to be bad for us. That's an opportune time. We just got to remember to keep some money and some valuables put away. I believe in storing your money in things like gold and silver, but I'm not a financial advisor. I'm some random stranger off the internet. So you got to look into this on your own. You got to figure out where you are comfortable storing your money. If hyperinflation happens, it would not be a good idea to keep $100 bills stuffed in your mattress, because they might become worthless overnight and you just lost all that value. But if you store them in something more valuable like gold or silver or other areas where it's going to continue to profit you, once that money becomes less valuable, it's okay, because you're making money off whatever the value of it is. If tomorrow $100 is worth $1,000 today, and you have something you're leasing out for $100 or you're selling for $100, tomorrow when everybody starts spending more money and inflation happens, you might be able to sell that item for $1,000, so you're not going to be hurting. So think about this. I'm going to study and do my research on part 2. Please look into all the things I've talked about. Federal Reserve Act of 1913. Richard Nixon taking us off the gold standard, the Saudi Arabia-U.S. Joint Council, and fractional reserve lending. These things should put in perspective that you're going to need to protect yourself, because anything can happen. And I believe those people that are running things don't care about me and you. They care about making money at our expense. So we got to protect ourselves, and the more knowledge we put in our heads, the more we're able to protect ourselves against these things. Thanks everybody for watching the video. I hope you learned something. I learned doing my research. I already knew some of these things, but I continue to learn every time I read up on something and I hit something that I missed. And it's our goal to become more valuable, not just financially, but as people. See you guys next video.